Welcome to another edition of the Backdoor Cut podcast. I am Barn Burner Bro, and I'm here with Matt Burnham, a new contributor to the Barn Burner. And we're going to be doing a little rundown on some Grizzlies action now that the season has started up. We're a couple weeks in now. And before I get started, I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsor, Blue Note Bourbon. This bourbon's artfully crafted in Memphis, Tennessee. I've got some right here with me as we do this podcast. It's beautiful. It's smooth. Go to your nearest liquor store and pick up some Blue Note Bourbon. Also, if you could, go check us out on Twitter at _barnburner.com. We'll be posting a lot during basketball games, keeping you up to speed on any Grizzlies coverage that we're doing, Tigers coverage, and all that good stuff. Also, head on over to Facebook, The Barn Burner, and like our page. You'll also be able to get involved with us there. Give you a little preview of what we kind of have going on the website right now. Now that the season has started, we're doing game previews for the week, so you'll get a full week's worth of content to talk around the water cooler with your buddies. You already have the heads up on who's playing, who's not playing, who's doing well on what teams. Give you make you look smart around the office. Also this year, we're committed to doing game-by-game recaps. So far, we're 5 for 5 on getting those up. Some analysis, some quick snapshots, just different thoughts on what we have on the game. Also, there's a written version of this Backdoor Cut podcast as well, where Matt and also fellow contributor Zach Thompson have written down their answers. You can check that out online as well. So without further ado, I'd kind of like to introduce Matt Burnham, a new guy who's going to be helping us out this year. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
What's up, Zach? What's up, y'all? So my name is Matt Burnham. I'm a new contributor here to the Barn Burner. So my story is I come all the way from Boston, and you might be wondering why. So I started school here at the University of Memphis because I just wanted to get away from home, try something new, do something that not many people from my area are doing. So out of all the places I chose, or that I could have chose from, I landed on Memphis, Tennessee. And it might be random, but I'm very happy with my decision, and it's going good so far. I'm a journalism major. Sports journalism is what I want to do when I leave school. And so I got introduced to the Barn Burner website by fellow contributor Zach Thompson. And that's basically what I do. Also, I contribute to a few SBNation.com pages. Welcome to Loud City, which is for the Oklahoma City Thunder basketball team. Bolts from the Blue, which is the Los Angeles Chargers football team. And Battle Red Blog, which is the Houston Texans football team. So obviously, with those three SB Nation pages and the Barn Burner, I have a lot to do, but I'm enjoying all of it. I'm enjoying doing my work, and I'm just excited to get this thing started.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. A lot of us are jealous. In Memphis, we don't have any major championships that we've won, and I saw a graphic. I actually retweeted it from the site account that if you were born in like 2003 or something like that, then you've seen like 15 championships in Boston sports or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
It's like you got 4 Patriots and 4 Red Sox. I don't know. It was nuts.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. But, I will say this, and you're probably going to look at me in shock. But even though I'm from Boston and have lived in the area for all my life until 2 months ago, I am a big New York Yankees fan.
Ooh,
so
okay.
Watching what happened last night in LA, that was sort of painful for me. Listen, I can appreciate greatness. I can understand that the Red Sox were a great team, but watching them win and knowing that my pinstripes have been at home for the last 3 weeks, it was not an easy thing to deal with, especially when all my friends and family are all Red Sox fans. So I have them all texting me, calling me, giving me crap for it.
I bet.
But it's been like this for over 15 years, so I'm used to it by now. But I'm just hoping that next year my team can take the crown. And if it means being a pariah in the city of Boston, then I'll do it. I'll do it.
So does that make you like the black sheep at everything? Like everywhere you go at high school things and family events?
Oh my God, yeah. Especially when baseball comes up in the conversation. So I guess one time I was at Fenway Park when I was 8 years old with my dad, and I was wearing my Yankees hat. I don't even remember. I don't remember this, but I guess some drunk Red Sox fan came up to me and threatened to fight me. And I was 8 years old, wearing a Yankees hat in Fenway. I do not remember this whatsoever. But my dad insists that it happened, and I don't. I believe it. I mean, those Boston fans are very vicious.
Oh man!
Because when it comes to the Patriots, I don't threaten to fight children, but I definitely, get very rowdy with it. So I understand the passion that comes with Boston sports fans, regardless if it gets a little too crazy. But
Yeah, you guys definitely have some winning pedigree up there, and that's something we're trying to establish here in Memphis. But we understand it takes a long time, especially when you trade away draft picks for garbage players. But that's a whole nother story.
Hey, Rome wasn't built in one day.
Definitely not. All right, so this we kind of built our template today around some questions submitted from one of our Twitter followers, TJ from Twitter. So a lot of this will be in print also, but kind of a unique set of questions, not necessarily a game by game hash out. But this one, the first question is: so the Grizzlies won one of the games they probably shouldn't have, and lost one that let's see, they won one they should not have, lost one that they should have won. So the one they won last week that they were not projected to win. They were probably, I think, 10.5-point dogs in Utah. Was against the Jazz, which that game was, I thought that was a pretty entertaining game. That was really harkened to the style of play that JB Bickerstaff's kind of promised us all year, and with the roster that has been assembled. So I was pretty impressed. It felt like the old Grizzlies, anytime that both teams score under 100, that's kind of the game that I feel like we have a really good chance in, because you look at our roster, and if you're trying to score 120 points, I have no idea where those 120 points would come from. So the defense is something that has to help out there. So what did you think about that win in Utah? Were you able to watch that one?
Yeah, that game, it really shocked me. Utah, it's one of the biggest home court advantages in the league. People don't realize that because they're not a big market. It's not like they're going into Los Angeles or Boston or New York where, there's just, millions of fans in the city and the big media market. But Utah, Salt Lake City, those fans, that's a tough place to go in and win, especially for a team like that, who I've seen projections from plenty different sources, ESPN or whatever it is, that have them pretty high ranked in the West. Like they could be like a 2 seed, a 3 seed. They'll definitely be somewhere in the top 5. So, I mean, to walk in there and to take a victory like that over a very good young team that's very well coached by Quinn Snyder, that's impressive. That's one that, regardless of how it happens, you really got to take that and be proud of it.
Is that an elevated? I assume that is. It's probably a dumb question because there's mountains and everything. But how high is that elevated? Like I know Denver is obviously a mile, but let's see, it's 4,000 feet. So that's dang near a mile. I know I was in Denver about a month ago, and it hit me, and I was there for 3 days. So I totally understand why teams have a problem playing in those elevated cities. It's so weird.
Yeah, there's the air pressure is so different. I mean, I've never been, so I can't speak to it. But how elevated is Memphis? Obviously, it's not mountains or anything, but
it's like sea level. It's like directly. I think it's directly sea level, or might even be a little below. Let's see, Memphis elevation. Yeah, it's 300 feet above sea level, so it's like it's really flat.
Yeah, and that's just crazy to me to think about, like a city being like a mile high. That's an unrealistic concept, but maybe one day I'll go and see what it's like.
Yeah, you definitely should check it out there. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, I know people like go snowboarding in that area a lot who say they love it, but we're getting off topic now.
Nah, you're good. It's All good. And then, of course, they turned right around and lost the freaking Kings. So they, we're supposed to get, beat by double digits in Utah, and then we're favored on the road. I think it was 2 or 3 point favorites in Sacramento, and things looked pretty good in the first half, and then just kind of fell apart in the second half. And Sacramento I feel like they should be a better team than they are, just based on some of the young talent with having Darren Fox and Buddy Hield, and Willie Cauley-Stein's an enigma to me because I feel like he's always underachieving. Like he's right there where he could be a good impact player, but he never quite reaches that potential.
Yeah, and don't forget about rookie Marvin Bagley too.
Yeah. You got Bags out there. I know there was a lot of Grizzlies Twitter and Kings Twitter was blowing up before the game. Of course, all the Grizzlies fans, we're all hype on Jaren, so trying to talk smack to Sacramento, saying that you guys, should have picked Jaren and you're going to be regretting that and everything. But I think it's little too early to tell. But I think my take on that is that for what Memphis needed, Jaren Jackson is probably the right guy for his skill set that he has and brings to the table. Just someone that he has a skill set that's unique and is not something that we've experienced necessarily here.
I totally agree with that. I think Jaren Jackson Jr., Triple J, he's got the length, he's got the athleticism, he can handle the ball a little bit, he can play some defense, he can shoot it. I mean, I don't think there's any one thing that he's necessarily elite at, or at least not yet, but it's just he's very well-rounded. He's good in a bunch of different things.
Yeah, definitely. And he's just as good as, Ayton and Bagley around the rim. Yeah, I think he has his touch around the rim was what's really impressed me. And his left-handed ability, he's comfortable going either direction and just has such, when he gets around the rim, I'm curious to see what percentage of the shots that he makes. I know Ayton destroyed us the other night from around the rim. He was 11 to 12 or something like that. But Jaren can do that exact same thing. He's not quite built the same as Ayton. He's a little slimmer, but he still has the incredible wingspan and everything to be able to do that.
Yeah, I know he's a freakish athlete, and he's just so talented. And it's Memphis fans really do have something to be excited about for the next, if he stays, hopefully he will, for the next 10, 12, 15 years, whatever it is. How old is he? Is he even 20 yet?
No, I think he's 19 still. He is the youngest. I'm pretty sure he's the youngest guy drafted this year.
Yeah, so he's still a child, and he's already impressing us a lot through 5 games.
Yeah, I get real excited thinking about him playing for us for a while. To transition to someone who is not as smooth necessarily. So I haven't watched a lot of Omri Caspi in his career, just because of some of the teams that he's been on, being out in the West Coast, don't necessarily stay up and watch all those games. Those that know me know I'm definitely not staying up. I barely stay up to watch the Grizzlies, so I'm definitely not staying up to watch someone else play. But I saw some of his shots from 3. What do you think of those? I think his form is fascinating to me.
Yeah, he's kind of at a loss for words to it. It's I don't know who taught him that. I don't know where he learned it. But just the way he shoots it.
To me, it reminds me of little kids. You do your practice, you run your drills at the beginning, then you do a scrimmage, then you are just waiting for your parents to come pick you up, and you're shooting shots from half court, and you're so small that you can barely get it there, so you're just using all your might. That's what his shots remind me of. His 3-point shots. They just come from his knees and look like he's putting so much effort into it.
Yeah, and it almost looks like he's not really focused on the form or anything. All he's thinking is, I have the ball, just throw it into the hoop. By any means necessary. Not gonna worry about angles of my arms or, the lift from my jump or whatever it is. Just throw the ball in the hoop.
Yeah, I think throw is probably the correct term there.
Yeah.
So a couple guys that we haven't seen much of this year. One of them that we saw a ton of last year by necessity, not necessarily by choice. And so Andrew Harrison and Ivan Rabb, we finally got to see them Saturday night, actually, when Phoenix was in town. Rabb played a little bit in the first half, and I got real excited because I saw Rabb play a couple times early last year in South Haven when he was playing with the Hustle on some of his assignments, and I thought he was definitely better than the players that he was playing against. He's got a good build, and I think he can really grow into that, and I'm pretty sure he could be a pretty decent backup front court guy because he's a good rebounder, got a good knack for getting the ball. He has a pretty good shot from like the free throw line jumper, which is an excellent shot for 4-5 to be able to hit. And so he got in early on Saturday against Phoenix, but then kind of just disappeared again. And then I don't think he played again until garbage time, and that's when Harrison made his first appearance. So that I'm still kind of confused as to why Shelvin is solely getting the backup point guard minutes, because I definitely assumed that Andy Harrison would get at least some of the backup point guard minutes, considering the last few years he has had to play a lot of those minutes. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I found it kind of interesting too. I'm looking at the box score right now for the game against Phoenix the other night, and Harrison only got 5 minutes and Rabb only got 11. And to add on to your point about how Harrison had to pick up a lot of those minutes after the last couple of seasons, I'm wondering why he's not getting this playing time, why he's not seeing the court or getting these touches. I mean, they're both young talent, and I'd like to see, what they can do if we give them more touches. I mean, what do we have to lose by letting them,
Yeah, it's thought, especially in a game like Saturday where we just controlled the whole game. We're clearly a better team than Phoenix. Their best player is a guard. He's not playing. And Devin Booker, he's out with a hamstring injury. So I thought that would have been a really good time to kind of see if Harrison if he's improved any from last year, because he did have several, solid games last year, and he's a plus defender. So I'd like to see him out there a little bit more. I haven't given up on Harrison, even though, Shelvin Mack is getting tons and tons of minutes, but I don't know if he can keep that up. He's a little older. So maybe at some point this season, the pendulum will kind of swing and we'll get a taste of Harrison to see if he's either if he's someone we should stick with long-term, or if we should just say, well, this is not going to work out, so make a move, Him
Right.
Just like being in purgatory. I don't understand that piece.
Right, and not just that, but we want to find out where they stand in the NBA. Are these guys solid starters? Are these guys we can keep on the team for long term, or are these just typical bench rotational role players? I mean, we want to find out what value they can really bring to our team.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll see some more of those guys in the upcoming games, and then this week really could be a week that we might, I don't want to say it, but we're playing a couple teams that are struggling right now. So hopefully we'll get to see some opportunity for those guys, especially with some of the injuries that we have going on. And we'll kind of touch on the games we have coming up towards the end of the show. So based on so Kyle Anderson, he was the big big free agent signing this summer. He's on $8 million a year. And I was pretty excited about it because he was touted as being this kind of 5-tool player, being able to, play good defense, deceptively good defense, create some on offense, really good passer. And I'm just kind of confused as to what he's doing right now, because every time he's out there, he just kind of looks a little lost. And it's not that we're playing fast, because our pace is not fast by league standards. So what are your thoughts on Kyle Anderson so far?
I guess I would honestly agree with you in a way. It sort of looks like, when we put our 5 guys on the court, we have 4 guys on the court, and then we just have 1 guy in Anderson who just he's there to just fill in that 5th spot sometimes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He's just kind of there just so we have that full 5. I mean, I would like to see him get some more touches, because I think that would get him more engaged in the game and probably more into it, get him into a rhythm, and really utilize the guy that they spent $8 million a year for.
Yeah, because right now he's literally averaging less than 4 points a game in 22 minutes a game. So, and to put that in perspective, someone like Shelvin Mack is playing 23 minutes, so pretty comparable, is getting near 8 points a game. So his contribution, at least offensively, has not been super impressive compared to what I was kind of expecting out of him. But maybe it's just the new system. But to me personally, I would kind of like to see some more Dillon Brooks, because I think he's a guy that obviously he played a lot of minutes last year and was pretty much the sole bright spot on the team once we shut down Tyreek, or he shut himself down or disappeared or whatever actually happened with that. And Dillon has also really struggled to kind of find himself. He's not getting quite as many minutes as Anderson. I think he's about at 17, but I would really like to see Dillon out there because he's younger and he's more athletic, I think, than Anderson. I don't think anyone would say Anderson's a plus athlete necessarily, but Dillon certainly seems to be one. And I'd kind of like to see Dillon get rolling because I think we have a couple other guys that are starting to score and get into the rhythm of things. But I'm honestly shocked that Brooks hasn't played much this year. And I think even the first few games, he barely played at all. And he's just now starting to kind of get back into the rotation. So that's kind of my feel on that, is that I would, until Anderson does something, at least I know that Dillon has played with these guys and, knows the system and everything. I'd like to see him get in there and get some more minutes.
Right. And I think he's the guy who can really bring a spark to the team when he's on the court. He can really provide that quickness, that athleticism, that energy that the other guys on the court with him can feed off of.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a good point too. He plays with a lot of emotion, and he's he's a savvy player because he played 3 years in college, so he came into the league a little bit older, and he kind of knows how to get under guys' skin. Like last year versus the Knicks with Courtney Lee, got Courtney Lee to get teed up at the end of the game, which ultimately cost the Knicks that game because we got free throws at the end of it. So he's a savvy player. And I think that I'd have to assume that the guys, enjoy, working with him, and that he's a good guy to have out there, at least from what we've seen. And to me, he earned his stripes and earned his playing time last year by kind of being the lone bright spot and suffering through that miserable year that we had in pursuit of Jaren Jackson. That's how I kind of think of last year.
Yeah, that is the only bright spot we can think to last year. If that didn't happen, then no Triple J.
No, then where would we be?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Dillon Brooks, he plays his heart and guts out on the court. He's gritty, like the Memphis basketball. That's what it's all about. I think Brooks is really good for that because he kind of embodies that. And because, of his, like I said, his quickness, his athleticism, that not many guys on this roster have compared to other teams, I should say.
That's definitely, we're a little more towards the aging side than a lot of the rosters that hope to be competitive, for sure.
Right. This team, it's not built on, crazy talent as much as it is just guys who are like fundamentally sound, who have like high basketball IQs, who know where to be, who know what plays to make, and who can like understand offensive schemes and defensive schemes. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. That's really the only hope that we have based on the personnel that are on the roster currently. So we got JaMychal Green out. He's been out, a week now? So he's got another 3 weeks out. And seeing as how Memphis has really struggled on the boards, especially in his absence, do you think that the Grizzlies should kind of pursue another big to fill in while he's out, or what are your takes on that?
So my take on that is, listen, if there's a big man available that can help out, then no, you will never say no to taking him. You'll never say no to a big body you can put in there and help out. But the way I see it, I think our bigs for now, at least until Green comes back, I think they're solid enough to get by. And if there were someone available that we could get, I'd personally rather just have a shooter for this team or a couple shooters for this team rather than a big body. But then again, like I said, that's not to say that if one is available, then we shouldn't take them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in Memphis, we've been wanting a shooter for like 6 years. Somehow you think we would have one, but that's what Chandler was supposed to be, our knockdown, drill down 3-point shooter, and that didn't happen.
No, that didn't happen.
Yeah, especially in the league now, you definitely need someone who can shoot. Mike Conley, to his credit, has become, he's become our best 3-point shooter over the past 5 years or so. He's really stepped it up and focused on that. And he's one of the few guys on the roster that when he gets the ball and he decides to pull it, I'm like, okay, I have a pretty good feeling about that going in.
Right, especially when he gets hot, when he gets into the rhythm of things, it's just swish, swish, swish.
Oddly enough, not last year, but the year before, when Mark started shooting a ton of threes, he was the guy that I felt that with. I was like, oh, Mark's shooting, which is probably not good when your 7-footer is the one that you're confident about shooting threes. That probably really stems to the root of this problem that we have of not having enough available shooters.
Well, yeah, especially in today's league. Thanks a lot, Warriors.
Just definitely
with the whole league that's based upon 3-point shooting and spacing the floor and having guys who can knock it down from the perimeter. That is kind of been the thing that held the Grizzlies back during their playoff runs over the years. That they didn't have that one guy who you could hand the ball to and say, all right, just take the game over. Just get your jump shot going. Just take it over. We got to keep up with this other team. We got to keep up with the Warriors. We got to keep up with the Thunder. We got to keep up with whoever we're playing.
Yeah, especially when back in the days with TA, when the Pop would just sag the paint knowing that there was no way he was hitting that outside shot. But so a lot of people, Grizz Twitter today was kind of blowing up about a bunch of Zebo talk. So I talked a little bit last week with Sacktown Royalties, Kevin Fippen, and he said that I asked him about Zebo, and because he is currently on the Kings roster and he's listed as the highest paid player on their roster, but he said that no one has literally seen him. He doesn't dress out for anything, doesn't show up to anything. He has made no appearances this year. So really he's been pretty MIA until last night when he was on James Wiseman. He and Zebo and Moneybag Yo went to James Wiseman's house. For those who might not know college ball, James Wiseman's the #1 high school recruit. Penny Hardaway, coach of the Memphis Tigers, is really going after him, kind of head-to-head with John Calipari from the University of Kentucky. But Zebo and Moneybag Yo, who's a local rapper, went over to James Wiseman's house to likely, kind of try to swing him one way or another in his recruitment. Because he made his official visit to Memphis this weekend. So people saw that. Zebo was brought back to their mind because Zebo is one of the founders of the Core Four. He was there when Grit and Grind started. He really embodies that. And I'm actually writing a piece right now on the Grizzlies Hall of Fame. Who would be in that if such an award or prestige existed? And Zebo is who I'm working on right now. And really has put you in the feels, kind of reading through some of his way he got, from his childhood through Portland, through LA to Memphis, kind of really makes you feel connected to him. And definitely the city of Memphis feels connected to him for his time here. And ever since he's left, all people have been talking about is like, let's get Zebo back. Let's get Zebo back. Oh, let's get Tony Allen back. Let's get him back, So a lot of people, their suggestion was get Zebo or see if there's any way that or any plans for the Kings, if they're going to cut him since he's clearly not participating with that team, if Memphis should attempt to pick him up, especially now with Jamichael out and indefinitely 3 weeks, 2 months, whatever it could be.
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't know about that thing that he did last night, going to James Wiseman's house with Moneybag Yo. That kind of shocks me. What that kind of tells me is, even though he's with the Sacramento Kings, he's still doing things in Memphis. I mean,
Yeah.
if he's still that connected to the city and he's hanging out around here, then I'm all for bringing him back. Obviously, he's not going to be the same Zebo of old from around the time we were going to the Western Conference Finals. He's not going to have that same type of impact, but what he does bring, he brings veteran leadership, he brings big game experience. Two things that you really want for a team that has a lot of young talent, like Jaren Jackson Jr., Brooks, Rab, all those guys. I mean, Randolph kind of brings that, like, when he walks into the room, all the guys that respect him, they revere him. They listen to what he has to say. They follow his example.
Yeah, I think I'd be open to it as long as Rab can get minutes. I'm team Rab for whatever reason. It may not be logical, and he hasn't necessarily done that much with the time that he's been given, but he's still a pretty young player. And I think that he really could be. I mean, when I look at Jamichael Green, there's nothing that he does that I don't think, oh, Rab could do that, for much less money, and he's younger. And that's just a guy that I really would like to see step up over this time period with Jamichael out. So we'll see kind of how that plays out.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So Randolph really hasn't shown up to like any of the Kings anything.
Supposedly not. Yeah, he's in like totally MIA. Like, I don't know how you do that and still get paid.
Yeah, I don't know how you're allowed to do that, nor how the Kings haven't done anything about this yet. Like, hey, dude, where are you? Get over here.
Yeah, I'm pretty fascinated by that situation. I'd kind of like to know behind the scenes, like how that's even possible, and who's like, I'm not gonna come out. I don't want to play for you guys anymore. You guys you're not really interested in winning. I'm just trying to collect a check. Or if they're like, hey, we're not going to use you because we have 15 other big men. So I don't know.
Yeah, maybe he just wants to find some better way to spend the last few years he has in the league, and he's like, Sacramento, not for me.
Nah, he needs to get on and do like some of those guys, and just kind of maybe he can latch on to a contender who just needs a little bit of a push. Not by contender, I mean like someone who will just at least make the playoffs, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
There's not really any real contenders.
Yeah, I don't see him going to Golden State or anything.
No.
But no, you're right. Just some playoff team or borderline playoff team that's young and needs a nice veteran presence. I'm trying to think of a team.
Oh, you could go to LA. I bet they need some help down low.
No,
that
really would work. Maybe a team like. Oh man, I'm stuck in my thoughts right now. I can't even think of one off the top of my head, but you get the point. Just a young, talented team that can go to the playoffs that needs some veteran leadership with big game experience.
Yeah, because the good thing about his game is it doesn't really age because he didn't really do much above, half an inch off the ground. So his joints got to be in good shape.
Yeah, he's
not like flying around anywhere.
Exactly. It's not like this guy is putting so much wear and tear on his knees, or he's going to lose the ability to barely get off the ground.
Yeah, at least I wouldn't think.
Yeah, it's not a game based on athleticism or speed or just being the ultimate highlight reel.
Yep. No. All right. So we'll kind of peek head to this week. So Grizzlies have 3 games scheduled this week. Wizards we play at home versus the Wizards on Tuesday. Friday we play at Utah again. So we played at Utah last week, and then we're already back there again this week. And then Sunday we finish up at Phoenix. So 2 of the 3 games we're we have scheduled this week are against teams that we've already played and actually already beat. So I think that kind of bodes well for us. And the Wizards are apparently a dumpster fire right now. I don't know if you've been keeping up with them at all, but they've only won one game so far, which is pretty surprising because I feel like their team is pretty much the same as it has been the past few years. I don't know what the big difference is.
You know how sometimes like analysts or commentators will talk about teams in the NBA, NFL, whatever it is, and they'll say the sum of the team is less than the sum of its parts, basically referring to like an underachiever. Well, no team embodies that more than the Washington Wizards. I mean, look at their starting lineup. You have John Wall, who's one of the best passers in the league, arguably top 5 point guard. Bradley Beal, who's an all-star player, who's arguably top 5 at his position. Otto Porter, don't get me started on that ridiculous contract. I don't know why they gave it to him.
Ooh.
But he's a pretty good shooter. He's a pretty good defender. I know they don't have Dwight Howard yet. But, basically my point is that they have this talent and, like you said, are a dumpster fire. They are not just losing, but they are getting blown out by teams that they should not get blown out by. I think they just lost by, 30 points to the Kings the other night. Or was it the Clippers? I think they lost to both, but I think, it was the Clippers that they lost to by 32.
Gosh.
And they are a total dumpster fire, and they should break up that backcourt of John Wall and Bradley Beal. But
yeah, I feel like that has to be some valuable trade pieces there because those are both all-star caliber players, but clearly they can't get the job done.
Right, and it's been 4 years in a row, 5 years in a row of going to the first or second round of the playoffs and getting bounced. I mean, how many times are you going to keep trying the same thing only to have it not work?
Yeah, definitely. And
but
the thing about the Washington to me is that it's definitely not a team to sleep on for us. So Washington still plays really fast, even though they haven't been successful. They're playing at the third fastest pace in the league. And obviously Memphis is playing they're definitely playing slow. So that if Washington's able to control the tempo and Wall or Beal gets hot, it definitely could go sideways really quickly if Memphis doesn't focus and kind of take care of business in that game.
Right. They need to control the tempo of the game because John Wall is going to be the fastest guy on the court because he's like a cheetah with the ball. But so if the Grizzlies can slow the game down and play it at their pace, you're taking the strengths away from Wall and Beal, who thrive in transition and thrive in, just outrunning their opponents.
Yeah, so that one I think will be really interesting, and you'll kind of get a feel really early on what's going to happen there. So I'm kind of nervous about that one. I'm not super confident.
Yeah, it's like a game that they very much could win because the Wizards are 1-5, but at the same time, the Wizards have the talent to pour it on us, but just like they can for any team.
Yep. That'll be a tough one. So hopefully we can drag them down into the mud like we did last time at Utah.
Maybe Scotty Brooks will be fired if we beat them.
Man, it kind of sounds like that's the way everyone's going. That would be I'm pretty sure those talks would be up in the air. I don't think he was necessarily a hot seat candidate at the beginning of the year, but it would definitely appear that he is now.
Yeah, it would be nice to say that, hey, the Grizzlies were the ones that got Brooks out of Washington. But
And then Friday we go, as I mentioned, back to Utah. So I'm expecting them to be pretty pissed off about having lost to us last week in a game that they probably feel like they shouldn't have. I mean, because Ingles, who's an incredible 3-point shooter the past few seasons, he shot 1 from 7 from deep against us, and there's no way he does that again. He's probably going to hit 5 or 6 at least. I feel like he's going to come out gunning for us and really cause some issues.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think Utah probably circled this game on their calendar after what happened last week. I got to think that, like you said, Ingles won't be shooting is cold. I also got to think that Donovan Mitchell, it looks like he's starting to find his rhythm a little more, and he's looking more like the player from last year, even though we got off to a slow start this year. So I think it'll be close either way. I think it'll be a game that kind of comes down to the last, few minutes, last quarter. But that's going to be a tough one. If we lose, then so be it. Utah's a good team. We just got them last week, so we can still pat ourselves on the back. But if we win, that's going to tell us a lot about this Grizzlies team going forward, showing us the type of grit and gut that they have.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a good point. And it looks like yesterday, Derek Favors, one of their big men, went on. He had a knee injury, so he's listed as day to day. So if he's not able to play, that obviously makes them have to go deeper into their bench. Favors averages 9.7 rebounds right now, so he's kind of the ancillary front court player with Rudy Gobert. And then we finish up. Excuse me. Finish up the week at Phoenix this time. Last week we played them at home, and next week we'll be on their court. So Devin Booker has been out over a week with that hamstring injury, and so he's still kind of day-to-day. So we could see him, we could not see him. And last year they definitely held him out in games where he was questionable. So it depends who you talk to as to if they are still trying to lose games and get more draft picks, or if they're trying to win and start to kind of climb out of that hole that they've been in for the past 10 years or something like that.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to say. So what they are, aside from Trevor Ariza and Ryan Anderson, it's just a bunch of really, really young guys. I mean, I got to give it to the Phoenix Suns. Over the last few years, it looks like they've drafted a lot of nice talent.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it's necessarily that they're trying to lose, but I'm not sure they're trying to win, if that makes sense. I think they're sort of just trying to figure out who fits where, what lineup works the best, who's worthy going forward, who's not going to be that guy. You know what I mean? Who on this roster is expendable? What young guys are we going to keep? I think they're more so just trying to figure out who they are as a basketball team going forward, because I mean, obviously every team wants to win, but you got to be realistic too. And I think Phoenix knows deep down, even if they won't admit it, that they're not going to do anything special this season whatsoever.
Yeah, it's kind of hard when you're paying Ryan Anderson $20 million. Any team that's got that kind of dead weight on their roster is probably not going to do too much, I don't think.
Right. I think this season's more about just getting Devin Booker when he comes back healthy to get up to that next tier, because he's sort of like a borderline star. He's he has all the talent, but he's not quite at that level yet as the other elite shooting guards. And then it's also about just DeAndre Ayton. We got the number one pick of the draft, the guy who many people are high on. So let's just showcase him for the whole year with Devin Booker, and we'll get our fans excited as we go forward.
Yeah, I think Ayton's even referenced him as the Shaq and Penny 2.0, which Ayton, he's fascinating. The game Saturday was a lot of fun. Just he quietly, put up some really good numbers. Mark still bested him several times, and I felt like was the better player and more complete player in that matchup in that particular game. But Ayton, the way he's getting the ball around the rim, he's shooting 91% at the rim, and he's getting half his shots there. So I know a lot of people questioned his jump shot ability from his time at Arizona, but he really has not had to take any. So right now we have no idea if he can shoot, because he is just not shooting. He hasn't attempted a single three-pointer yet. So his game is clearly near the rim, but he's averaging double-double right now, 17 and 10. So he's definitely living up to the expectations so far, which has been pretty cool, I think. I think the good thing about even the sorry teams this year is that they have, with the strong draft class that we had last year, they still have potential superstars on their roster. So that just makes the NBA so much more fun this year.
Right. It's even though they're teams that aren't going to win anything at all this year, the fans still have a reason to just be excited, and they still have a reason to buy tickets and show up to the arenas to watch games because they have these young potential superstars going. So I agree with you on that. It is really good for the NBA.
Yeah, and then so we mentioned Devin Booker. He's day to day, so it's almost a week away. So it'll be a while before we find out. And recently, Isaiah Kanan also went day to day with an ankle injury. So he's their starting point guard, and if he goes out, then they really could be thrown into a mess if they're down almost their whole backcourt. So I kind of pity the Suns right now. Hopefully, I'm hoping that we get to see some of these guys play because that's half the fun.
Right.
Anyway, and I want to see our guys get challenged and kind of see where we stand because, if we're not gonna, I want to know, do we have a team that can compete in the playoffs and make it to the playoffs? Picking up a bunch of cheap wins and then getting blown out against any good team, that's not much fun either.
Exactly. You want to, even if we don't necessarily beat other good teams, if we can go into these games and make it competitive and make it hard for these other teams to get the win, that will still tell us something going forward. I mean, obviously, yeah, you want the wins. Of course, you're rooting for the wins, but you don't want to walk into Utah in a few days and lose by 30. You know what I mean? Want to, even if you lose, you want to make these games competitive and still show the Grizzlies fans something.
Yep. Any parting thoughts, Matt, before we wrap up?
Well, back to what you said about how you're writing the piece about the Grizzlies Hall of Fame. Zebo's definitely going to get his jersey retired. So is Tony Allen. So is Marc Gasol. So is Mike Conley. And so is Jaren Jackson Jr. in 20 years.
I like to hear that. I'm okay with that. I hope that's what happens.
Yeah, but, we got a lot to be excited about this year. I mean, 3-2 with a win over the Jazz in their place. I mean, what more can you ask for 5 games going in?
No, and I think the way that a lot of stuff is not panning out how you would have pictured, Houston is not firing on all cylinders yet. LA isn't. A lot of teams are struggling. So
OKC.
OKC.
Loud City is not loud right now.
They're not having as much fun as we are, I suppose.
Nope. But that's the funny thing about the NBA. Things happen, and good teams that you thought would be good, they're not as good, or teams that you thought that would be bad, they're better than you expected.
Yep, absolutely. So again, remind everyone, check us out on Twitter at @the_barnburner and online at the-barnburner.com for game-by-game recaps, previews, analysis, podcasts, fun stuff all around from all our contributors. So until next time, we will see you later.
Adios, amigos.